Welcome to the one and only Texas Government ePortfolio Project administered by Professor Spangler of the Lone Star College system. So, without wasting any more time, here we go. So, being a resident here in the state of Texas, and as you can tell by my attire, I'm a proud Texan indeed. I have lived here for about 8 or 9 years now. I moved from the absolute broke state of Illinois, very conservative, and wouldn't you know, we moved to a conservative state. Nothing wrong with that, right? So the first issue that I kind of want to tackle is the media. The media just here in Houston, we have tons of stations. We have Channel 13, 11, 2, all kinds of radio shows, whether it be AM, FM, and I feel like we cover more sports more than anything, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So as far as Texas goes and Texas politics goes, I kind of want to talk about my first artifact, and it features Texas's one and only beloved Rick Perry. So it's going to be some of his campaign ads he used when he was on the presidential campaign. So we'll take a look at those. But before we do that, I want to show a clip of where you're about to understand why Rick Perry had such a hard time and how he was kind of attacked by the media after this.
It's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
You need 5.
Oh, 5, okay. So commerce, education, and the
EPA?
EPA, there you go. No, okay.
Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or?
No, sir. No, sir. We were talking about the agencies of government. EPA needs to be rebuilt.
But
There's no doubt about that.
But you can't name the third one?
The third agency of government, yeah. I would do away with the education, the commerce, and let's see. I can't. The third. Sorry. Oops.
So after discussing his kind of tax plan, Rick was starting to transition into what agencies he was going to eliminate to alleviate the tax on the citizens. And in the process, he named 2 out of his 3 proposed and kind of slipped up. And the media absolutely destroyed this man, and I believe it cost him big time. Now, if that wasn't enough, the moderator called him out. He asked if, hey, could you name the third one? And by God, he couldn't. And, of course, he uttered the word.
Oops.
Good job, Perry. So what's your response to that? Well, you're about to see.
Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there?
Department of Energy. You know, we've all lost our train of thought before, but not many have done it on national TV. Now, if you want a slick debater, I'm obviously not your guy. But if you want a clean house in Washington with a balanced budget amendment, a flat tax, and a part-time Congress, I'm your man. I'm Rick Perry. What's that line again? I'm Rick Perry, and I approve of this message.
And as you would guess, the name of that ad is called Oops. Straight up. That's what Rick called it. So I feel like he does a cute job of trying to address his mistake, and I feel like he does it pretty graciously. It's kind of a little bit too late. I mean, he took the time to pay for that ad and put it out there, but his first words, he addressed it. It was Department of Energy, and as funny as it sounds, he is actually the head of it now that President Trump is in power. So even though he wanted to eliminate it, now he's the head of it. So it's a weird world we live in, that's for sure. See, the other side of this video, though, is that it really didn't sit well with some people. As you can see, the ratio, not people were buying what Rick was selling. But if you look on the actual Oops video, yeah, a lot more different response. People loved it, and I can't blame them. But that's the power of the media. His paid-for ad gets this like to dislike ratio, and then you look at the moment he messed up, and there it is. So from Perry's Oops ad, he has another ad that he used during the presidential election, and this is it. It's titled Strong.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm a Christian. But you don't need to be in the pew every Sunday to know that there's something wrong in this country when gays can serve openly in the military, but our kids can't openly celebrate Christmas or pray in school. As president, I'll end Obama's war on religion, and I'll fight against liberal attacks on our religious heritage. Faith made America strong. It can make her strong again. I'm Rick Perry, and I approve this message.
All right, so after watching the video, I feel like Perry kind of takes a myopic route to where he is going with his message. I feel like it doesn't hit a broad audience. If anything, it narrows everything he's saying, because he talks about his religion, and he actually points out just kind of a blurred issue on gays being in the military. Now, there's nothing derogatory about it. It just kind of comes off as not something many people are probably going to sit well with. Like the other video, this strong ad video also got a very poor review from people on YouTube, as you can see. And then they actually made a parody of this strong video. I believe it was by Funny or Die, and they called it weak. And it's very raunchy, and people absolutely loved it. So that's the power of the media once again. But as you would guess, Perry didn't really go very far in the presidential election, and a lot of it has to do with the media. So I would like to transition into just more talking about how, not only how powerful the media is, but what kind of message the media can send. Because this past last year of 2016, there was a lot of shootings having to do between police officers and African Americans. And for my second artifact, it's kind of a touchy topic. It's a little dark, but it definitely happened. It was on July 7th of 2016 last year. It was the Dallas shooting. So the whole thing about the Dallas shooting was about an African-American male took it upon himself to target police officers. And I believe there was 5 officers that were killed and 9 wounded, with 3 civilians wounded as well. Now, not only is this a monstrosity and a tragedy at the same time, but this goes to show how powerful the media is, because within months before this event happened, there's been countless shootings on African Americans, as shown above. So going back to the Dallas shooting, his motive was, not only was he mad about some of the shootings and wrongdoings that were done by the police force, but a lot of what was portrayed in the media, the upgrowing movement of the Black Lives Matter. Johnson was obviously disgruntled with what was happening, and he just took it amongst himself to commit these actions. So being only 25 years old, Johnson was killed. Well, it was during the Dallas shooting. He was actually an Army veteran as well, to explain how efficient he was with his actions. So kind of the main reason why I chose the Dallas shooting is because, well, it happened in Texas. Now, one theme that's been covering this story has been the talk of racism, because Black Lives Matter, their whole thing is that African-American descent citizens are not getting the same equal protection rights as others. Now, with that said, I'd like to move into my case study. My case study has to do with the bit about racism. Now, racism, I would say, still exists very much in today's society. And a lot of that has to do with the traditionalistic South, due to the Civil War happening, North versus South, and the entire premise of the Civil War was over slavery. So after the Civil War, 13th Amendment is passed. Slavery is completely abolished. The South really didn't like that, and they did whatever they could to keep things segregated. So let's just define racism. It's prejudice, discrimination directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. So this brings me to my case study on Richard Spencer. We're here at Texas A&M University, the home of the fighting Texas Aggies. This might be the most conservative school in Texas. By God, it might as well be the entire United States. Here we go. Now, Aggies, their core values here are excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, and respect, and let's not forget, selfless service. Now, Texas A&M is predominantly a very white school, but that being said, it is also very diverse. So I come here on terms of discussing racism. And reason being is, a few months ago, a man by the name Richard Spencer paid a visit to the campus. Now, when Spencer made his appearance, he was met with a lot of resistance. Quite frankly, a lot of students didn't like what he was saying. I can't blame him. So let's dive in a little bit deeper of how he got here and what exactly was said. Spencer regards himself as a very conservative and right-wing person when it comes to politics. His views kind of stray that way, and what better place to give a speech than the very conservative school like Texas A&M. So the story on Richard Spencer happened here in Texas. The whole uproar is that Spencer is claimed as a white nationalist. He discredits that and calls himself an identitarian. An identitarian is someone that is alt-right, which is kind of the right-wing or red side of politics, and more of the extreme side, so very, very strong conservative. That's his explanation for it. So as the story goes, Spencer was invited by a former Aggie by the name Preston Wigginton. Preston was also described as a white nationalist as well. During his time at A&M University, he often clashed with teachers. The Texas Tribune reported about not only Preston and Spencer, but a statement was released from the university saying that any person is permitted to reserve a space because it is available to the public. All right, so the first clip that I want to show you is how Spencer kind of got into the public eye.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory! To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around.
Now, this is where Spencer kind of builds up his bad reputation in the public eye, and that is with his lobbying group that he is head of, is called the MPI. And what it is, it's a white nationalist think tank. And as he claims himself as an identitarian, and he claims it is a separate entity altogether, even though that it shares a lot of white nationalist views. That is how the media represents him. Now, since he's on the conservative side, his political party is obviously Republican. So what's kind of funny is that this past election, Texas was actually considered a swing state. And the past, decade, Texas has been primary Republican and will probably remain Republican. Although Spencer is a conservative, not many Republicans are going to jump on his boat very fast because he is looked as a white supremacist. And what doesn't help Spencer's case is that his interest group has been nationally hailed as a white supremacist group. So I went to Texas A&M, the conservative school it is, and I wanted to get the public opinion, and I interviewed a few students. I hope you like it.
I disagree with a lot of what he says. I believe he's a racist, and he is a white supremacist. Should be able to speak on a public campus. It's not private. They can't turn him down.
As a minority, kind of a bad time at that point, because the school, whatever circumstances there were, was allowing somebody who basically believed in something that was the opposite of who I am. And so protesting that day was kind of my way of showing the university and him that his opinions and his beliefs were opposite of mine, and that I obviously objected with him. It was good to see other people near me who of all colors, because he is a white individual and because he is, a Nazi supporter or alt-right, as he would say. It was good to see a lot of people of many different races with me, defending me, because obviously he's not going to be saying anything negative about whites unless they're like Jewish or unless there's something other than what he is.
Yeah, I saw parts of it. Man's clearly crazy. I understand the importance of, free speech and, protecting that, especially at a state institution like Texas A&M. But I got to say I was discouraged to see someone like that here. Who was just so hateful, and the things that he said were just so out of line, definitely.
It was kind of just disheartening because at that point I didn't feel like anybody was advocating for me as a black woman. Why he's creating everything is just very ignorant, and all of his beliefs are very ignorant, and I feel like he has a lot of ignorant people following him. And I feel like if a lot of people in society today would just come and actually get the facts before they speak their opinions, it would be a much better place.
Like, apparently the only reason he actually came here was because some old ag who is part of that whole alt-right movement invited him over. And I understand, like, we have like the free right as a public university to have people come over here and speak their mind, but like, really, like, you're at a university, even though A&M is predominantly conservative, but there's, over the past decade, there's been a lot more people from other races coming in. Like, we have a big demographic of African Americans, Hispanics, a huge population of people that are coming from other countries coming over here, and I didn't find it in any way appropriate for him to show up here thinking that he could still have that effect on students when a lot of us are surrounded by people of different origins, different races, different ethnicities. We're a lot more open to people that are just different from us. So I was disgusted, honestly, when he came and he thought that he could still try to bring that message over and still think that people were going to accept him. I mean, you're free, you have the right to believe what you want, but to think that you can go and impose it on other people, that's kind of where you should draw the line.
Though I will agree that society today is, I feel like it's very sensitive, but for something like that, something that Spencer has said doesn't sit well with a lot of people and doesn't sit well with myself, and it just isn't right socially. Aside from interest groups like the one that Spencer owns, the political party does not affiliate with people that use this type of rhetoric and perform hate speech, as some would call, and some that regarded in some of my interviews. But the public opinion on Richard Spencer is not welcomed by any means, and the only thing that has been really boosting Spencer's message is, again, the media. So I guess my political question is, how can we really limit the media as terms in the political realm? Because a person with more money can get more media buys, and that can drastically turn the tide between a win and a loss in an election race. As far as an example from last podcast that was offered in federal government. This specific podcast was between a Republican and a Democrat candidate in a red state, and the Democrat that was running was actually really close until the last week of the race, and on that last week, his Republican counterpart was an incumbent and had more money and had a media buy. He released a political ad, and it absolutely destroyed the Democrat running. It does make a difference. Media is a completely, utterly powerful tool that is used in the political realm, and I think we should try to think of some law or some way that we can limit it.